Gene, Gene, @yahoo.com. Gene Powell Past Chamoy.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock, John Fuller is here, and today is April 8th, 2015. If that's the same date on your calendar, then you're listening to a live broadcast, and you are invited to call in and ask John whatever question you've got on your mind regarding a legal situation you might find yourself in. John Fuller is an attorney here in Ocala at the law firm of Fuller and Fuller. The other Fuller is his beautiful wife, Janet, and the phone lines are open, 622-9622. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Larry. How are you? And how's everybody listening? I hope they've all had a good week and a good weekend last weekend. Hope they didn't lose too much sleep staying up watching the NBA or the NCAA finals.
Right. That was the talk of the airwaves for a while.
I'm sure. Well, it was past my bedtime, so I didn't see it.
Gosh, there was you know what I realized? I was looking at some other this definitions, or not just definitions, but like job descriptions of attorneys. You guys all really specialize. It's almost like doctors. Like you have one specific area that you specialize in.
Yes. When I started practicing law in 1973, lawyers pretty much were a lot like doctors had been 10 or 15, 20 years before that, in that a medical doctor did just about everything. He was your family doctor. He would, if you broke your arm, he'd put it in a cast, deliver your baby, take your appendix out, treat your pneumonia. They just were jack of all trades. Medicine, of course, was a lot simpler. They didn't have nearly the sophisticated treatment protocols and procedures and things that they do now. So as it became more and more complex, it was obvious that it was impossible for one person to be all things to all patients in the case of the medical field, and to do it extremely well. So they started specializing. You had orthopedic surgeons, you had general surgeons, you had interventional cardiologists, you had cardiologists, and on and on and on. Well, law started experiencing the same thing, and in 1983 or 4, the Florida Bar established board certification for lawyers. And if you wanted to specialize in an area and be able to ethically and properly hold yourself out as a specialist, you had to take a very rigorous examination. You had to have practiced law a certain number of times. You had to have tried a minimum of, I think, 15 jury trials to a verdict. You had to have peer recognition from judges and other lawyers before whom you had tried cases, or with whom you had tried cases, or against whom you had tried cases. It is quite a rigorous process. The exam was 10 hours long, and so a few of us started in the early days to say, okay, we want to do this. And so I became board certified in 1985. I think the first year was probably the year before that, and I missed the first class because I was involved in almost a 2-month federal trial here in Ocala with a number of highly prominent, nationally prominent lawyers in it, and it was on television every evening. And,
wow! Well, anything we would know?
It was a big criminal drug case in federal court.
Oh wow!
It started in the summer of 1983, and ended about the first week of September 1983.
Wow!
And so it was a huge case, very time-consuming, and I felt like that was more important than going to take the first exam. So I took the second one, passed it, became board certified as a civil trial lawyer. Then a few years later, they offered other certifications. They offered certification in tax law. They offered certification in business and commercial litigation. So because there was an overlap in the type of litigation I did in both civil and business,
Right.
I became board certified in business litigation.
Oh, wow.
Then that was with the Florida Bar Board of Specialization. Then there became a national board of trial lawyers who you could certify with.
Right,
so I
right.
certified with the National Board of Trial Advocates in both civil trial law and in business commercial law
Really?
litigation. So I have those board certifications. Now they have a fifth one that I have for civil pretrial work, because there's a lot of cases you will work for years doing all kinds of pretrial motions, depositions, summary judgments, a lot of technical work, and then the economics of the case inevitably drive it to settle so you don't try it. But nevertheless, you've litigated it, and you had to have the skills, the requisite
Right,
skills
right,
to do that. So I became board certified in that. So in order to ethically advertise or say, I specialize in civil trial law or business and commercial litigation, you have to be board certified. So that's why we do it. And I don't do tax law. I don't do real estate law. And I've cut all that out because you can't be all things to all people.
That's an amazing thing. I didn't even realize that all took place. Let's go to the phone. Good morning. You're on the air with John Fuller.
Hey, good morning, Larry. Good morning, Larry, Lawyer Fuller.
Good morning. Nice to hear from you. How are you?
I'm fine. I always liked the way Maddie Ross referred to her attorney as Lawyer Daggett in True Grit. I always thought that was interesting. But it's just a question that I have. It has nothing to do with anything but just a curiosity that you have to sit for the Florida bar exam, and if you wish to practice law in Wyoming, you got to sit for the Wyoming bar exam or Colorado or wherever. How different are those exams? And that's my only question, just how different they are. And I'll hang up and get the answer and
Okay.
enjoy your show.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's an excellent question, and yes, that is true, because all states have different laws, and in order to be admitted to practice law on a full-time basis in another state, you have to qualify with the background investigations and the education, and then you have to take a bar exam. Most states do not have full reciprocity. They now have a multi-state section of the Florida bar exam, and I took one of the first multi-state sections when I took the Florida bar exam originally in 1973. And if you pass those, then they will give you credit for having passed those, because the federal rules of evidence are the same throughout the United States, okay?
Makes sense, yeah.
And so they'll give you some degree of reciprocity. But you do have to take some portion of it. Most of them require that you take the ethics requirement. Most of them require courses in that state's rules of procedure. But what can happen, and what I've done on a fair number of occasions, when I have a case out of state that I am going to try, and I had an accident case that took place. The people lived in Florida. They were coming back from vacation. They were in a horrible accident on I-75 in Georgia. The husband and father was killed. The mother was very hurt. Several of the children were hurt. And so the lawsuit was in Georgia. So I went to Georgia. You have to associate a local attorney to associate with you.
Okay.
And then you have to be a member of good standing of the state where you practice, and you get a certified copy of your active license and ability to practice. Then you petition the court, and it goes back to the old Latin we've joked about before. It's called a petition pro haec vice, which means for this moment to allow me to practice. And as long as I have a local counsel who's familiar with the local rules, who will assist, I can be lead lawyer. I can go to Georgia, Alabama, whatever, petition the court for admission, and go in and fully try that case. I can't do it on a everyday basis. I couldn't go up there every week with another case. You're not allowed to do it repetitively, But for that isolated case where you have one this year, one 2 or 3 years later, something like that, you can do that with no problems.
Wow.
I've also done the same thing with lawyers in California who were coming to Florida and wanted to try cases as co-counsel with me. They applied for like Vice, and we would try the case together. So you can do that, but if you want to have two offices, say you have a home in North Carolina and a home in Florida, and you want to practice half the year in one place and half the year in the other, you have to take 2 bar exams.
Oh, really? We have to take a little break, and we'll be right back. John is here to answer your legal questions. The number is 622-9622. We'll be right back with John Fuller after this.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For today, a warm day with sunshine and some building clouds. There can be an afternoon thunderstorm in spots. High 82 at the coast, 87 inland. And partly cloudy tonight, though 63 to 67. Mostly sunny and pleasantly warm tomorrow. High 83 at the coast, 89 inland. For Friday, partly sunny and warm. Watch out for a thunderstorm in the afternoon. The high 85 to 89. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Whether you're building it up or knocking it down, get it done, rent it now. Sunbelt Rentals is here to make your job a little easier. Our knowledgeable staff will help you find the right equipment for any job, big or small. Did you know that Sunbelt Rentals carries heaters, air conditioners, generators, lighting, traffic control, and so much more? So whether you're building it up or knocking it down, we've got the equipment you need. Get it done, rent it now. And right now, for a limited time, you can have it for less. Just by mentioning this ad, if you rent it Friday afternoon, you can keep it the whole weekend and only pay for one day. And this is a limited time offer, so stop into Sunbelt Rentals today, Northwest 27th, just a quarter mile east of I-75. For more information, just give us a call, 352-369-9101. 352-369-9101. Sunbelt Rentals. Get it done, rent it now. 352-369-9101.
Hi, I'm Seth with AA Lock, Dock, and Security. Have you ever thought about the locks or security on your house or business? Have you ever wondered why the keys to your new car cost so much? Well, at AA Lock, Dock, and Security, we can help with securing your valuables. We can even replace those expensive transponder keys. We can give you the knowledge that no one else will. Call AA Lock, Dock, and Security at 867-1965. That's 867-1965.
Hey, Matt, I know Sunrise Automotive does auto stuff, but I need some tires for my truck. Can you recommend someone?
Yes, I can. We do that.
No, I mean, I need them installed and balanced and all that.
Yep, we do that.
Well, my son needed his windows tinted.
Yep, we do that.
I need my seat replaced.
Yep, we do that too.
I need a new roof line, and a new spoiler, and a new trunk.
We can even do that too.
Okay, I get it. I suppose you can also do a radio show too, huh?
Well, as a matter of fact, join me every Monday at 10 for auto repair with personal care here on The Source.
Of course you do.
All right, 12 minutes now before 11 o'clock. John Fuller is here to answer your legal questions, and we always find something about you in the break that I would love to share with the listeners. One time we found out that you met Elvis Presley, and you had a chat with him. Yeah. Now we find out that somebody in your family was...
Well, it was a very tenuous relationship. A lady who was my godfather, her stepfather was Cal Long, and the Long family settled in the National Forest back in the late 1800s, and their homes were on what is now known as Pat's Island in the forest, not too far from Silver Glen. When Marjorie Kennan Rollins came down here from New York, she fell in love with the area. She, of course, lived at Cross Creek, but in order to work and write and get the local color, she stayed with Cal Long and his family, and my godmother was then a little girl, in a cabin on Pat's Island.
Wow.
And the Long Family Cemetery is still out there. You can go get a National Forestry map of the Ocala National Forest,
right,
and it shows you. It's off-road now to vehicular traffic, but I grew up deer hunting out there when I was a youngster, and they have the cemetery preserved, and you can read the old headstones of the Long family. You can see remnants of where the old house was a little bit. Wow. They still have some wisteria and other plants there. And then they have this huge huge sinkhole there that they had a cistern in, which was how they got water back then. And that's all written up very accurately in her book, The Yearling. And the young boy Jody goes down to Silver Glen, where he builds the flutter mill that's in the first sentence of the first chapter of the book Marjorie Kennan Rollins wrote, called The Yearling, about the story of a young boy coming of age in the national forest and having nothing except this little deer as his friend. And Gregory Peck was here in Ocala when they filmed it. Some of the people who were friends and relatives of my parents, they made the movie in the late 1930s, as I recall. And in order to film the pictures where they were having the bear hunt, they had a wild bear. Ross Allen was involved with it, and they would put a female bear who was in estrus on one side of the river and set up the cameras and release the male bear on the other side, so he would run across the river and they could film him, and he would go right to where the female bear was, and then they would put him back in the cage when he got there.
Oh, wow.
But that was filmed here. Gregory Peck starred as the father in it. And it's a classic. And if you want to know about the heritage, go get Marjorie Kennan Rollins' book, The Yearling, and I love it. It's very peaceful out there. The sinkhole is covered with magnolias and dogwood, and during the spring, it's one of the most lovely places you would ever want to see.
Somebody needs to make that into a museum piece over there.
Well, it's a natural park thing, you know. It's part of the national forest. It doesn't need to be developed. They have, they've made it off-road to vehicular traffic. You have to hike back in there. But it's, if you like that sort of thing, it's pretty special.
I think we all love that sort of thing.
Well, I fell in love with it when I was about 10 years old, and it's been a special part of my life and growing up and remembering good times with good friends who've passed on, who were there and important people in my youth.
Wow, that is cool. Get to know you a little bit more each week. You do have a phone call. Good morning. You're on the air with John Fuller.
Yes, good morning, Ben.
Good morning. How are you?
That poor bear should have gotten a lawyer. That's terrible what happened. Say, recently it seems like every once a week or a month or whatever, you hear about these people that have been in prison for 10, 20, 30 years, and now with modern technology and everything else, they find out that these people were incarcerated illegally and they weren't at fault. What is the situation with a person that's been incarcerated for many, many years? Can he hire a lawyer? Can he sue the state or the government or local or federal or whatever? What is the situation on something like that?
Well, I've not really had that specific thing come up, and I'm not an expert in answering that, with great detail. You can seek compensation. It has to go through a claims bill with the legislature, and you're really at the mercy of the legislature to give you some type of compensation when it's been determined. There have been a few of those that have happened. That's one of the absolutely marvelous things that has resulted from DNA, has been the determination of how many people were convicted in jury trials. Their conviction was upheld on appeal, and they served jail sentences for many, many, many years.
Right.
And then with the advent of DNA, they were able to go back and compare the evidence and see that there was no way that they could have been the perpetrator of the crime. You don't ever get very much. The legislature is very reluctant to give away tax dollars, even though it's horribly wrong and those people have been horribly damaged. You can't sue the government. You can seek a claims bill from the legislature, and that's really about all I know about it.
Yeah, would you think there'd be like something like a format for payoff?
I don't know. I mean, that's
amount of minimum or maximum amount of.
I have no idea.
Wow, that's an interesting question. So is the DNA technology now permissible in court, so we don't prevent that from happening? I mean, so we can prevent
DNA is admissible, yes.
Wow.
It has been established as reliable science. It's very difficult to challenge it on the science. I've had cases where I had to challenge it, and the best way to challenge it is not on the accuracy of the DNA procedure itself, so much as that the specimens are contaminated. The crime scene was adulterated. The specimen was not properly preserved. The specimen was degraded. It was not a testable sample. It had other components that made the specimen no longer suitable for testing. That's the best way to attach it.
Can you talk a little bit about expert witnesses? Do you have to pay them?
Yes.
Do you have to? Can they say no, or are they legally bound to show up?
No. Well, if you hire them, they're an expert in the case, just like if you hire a lawyer. And but they don't have to take the case if they don't want to.
Oh, okay.
But they are experts. Experts are invaluable. I consider them the most important tool to a successful trial practice. I consult with experts in multiple different disciplines about every conceivable issue, and they are invaluable. You want to get good experts. Not all experts are created equal. And you want someone who has a good reputation for making opinions on solid science and backing it up, not somebody who's just a hired testifier.
So when you have to have a witness who's not an expert witness, just somebody who's standing on the side of the road and happened to see something, is there a legal obligation? Do they go to jail if they don't show up in court?
Well, you have to subpoena them.
And that means
they don't have a duty to come forward, and they're not competent under the law to render an opinion because they are lay witnesses. They are fact witnesses. What color was the car that went through the traffic control device? What color was the traffic control light when the car went through it? Those are fact things. Right. I saw the car, it was the blue car. I saw the traffic control light, the light was red. The blue car ran the red light. Those are things that you can see. Did the driver of the blue car appear drunk to you? Objection, irrelevant, beyond the competency of this witness to express an opinion as to the state of sobriety or impairment of normal mental faculties of the driver of the car. This witness is not an expert, Your Honor. Objection sustained. If they can't give you an opinion. Experts can give opinions, and they charge to give those opinions. But if you have a witness to an accident that you want to testify, first of all, you contact and interview that witness if they will agree to talk to you, which most of them do, because all you want is the truth. You want to find out the facts. And then if their facts are relevant and material to an issue in the case, then you subpoena them, and they come before the judge or the jury and testify. And they're cross-examined by the other side. And before they do that, both sides have a right to take their deposition to find out what they're going to say before trial, okay? And then they testify. Now, if you subpoena a witness and that witness ignores the subpoena, then that is a contemptuous act because a subpoena is a court order commanding their presence. And judges take it very seriously if someone is disrespectful to one of their orders, and if they ignore a subpoena without a really, really good explanation or having made some arrangements ahead of time, the judge can punish that by contempt of court and put someone in jail.
Oh, wow. And what kind of how long would they be in jail for something like that?
Well, that's up to the judge. It couldn't be more than 6 months for indirect, but
that's enough. That's long enough. Yeah. The phone lines are open if you want to call John. The number is 622-9622. We only have about 2 minutes left. What is a good number to call you when you're not on the air?
The office number at Fuller & Fuller is 352-547-4292. Our toll-free number is 855-534-2565. The law firm of Fuller & Fuller. We do civil trial work, personal injury, serious injuries, commercial business disputes, Social Security disability, and a select practice of complex family law matters.
And give a little plug for what Janet does. Janet does something separate, right?
Janet is my partner and my wife. She was a registered nurse and worked at Shands for 7 years before going to law school. She's practiced law almost 25 years, and she focuses her practice on Social Security disability. And that is her area that she handles. And if you have a question about Social Security disability and would like to speak with someone she would be the one in our office to talk to.
All right. Call us if you need John's number repeated. Also, remember that we do record these interviews as a video, and they're on the WOCA Facebook page and the WOCA YouTube channel.
And if I could just quickly mention, you can also go to our website, ocala-lawyer.com.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Larry.
And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Stay and enjoy the film festival. You have something to offer that nobody else has to offer. You actually have some recollections of where Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings.
Well, I can tell you about when they filmed "Follow That Dream" over at Yankeetown and meeting
Elvis. Yeah, that's
Elvis.
right. You met Elvis.
That's one heck of a story. And he was here in Ocala filming at the what is now the Sun Bank. It was then Commercial Bank and Trust Company. And he was a super nice guy. It was the spring of 1961. They released it in the spring of 1962, and it was based on a book called Pioneer Go Home.
Wow.
And they named the movie Follow That Dream. He cut the soundtrack for it. His co-star was Ann Helm, and
my goodness,
it's a great movie.
You got to go downtown and meet some of the film people. All right, we'll be right back. This is WOCA Ocala.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. Protest in North Charleston, South Carolina.
No more!
This after release of a video which seems to show white officer Michael